And joining me now is Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. It's great to see you, Debbie.
Christy, it's good to see you and to be with you.
You know, it's a beautiful sunny day on Mackinac, which is not rare, but always nice to see this time of year.
Although it's cold.
It is cold. It is cold. I want to start talking to you a little bit about the civility and the bipartisanship that we've seen here on the island, not only with the Michigan congressional delegation in a lot of the things that you're tackling on behalf of the state of Michigan, but also seeing what has happened in the state legislature as well, and with the governor and signing the no-fault insurance reform. Do you think that we're getting to a point where we can start to have these civil conversations and get things done in a bipartisan nature, given the toxic work environment that you have in Washington?
So I remember a time when it was like that and people worked together. I was with Senator Bob Dole, former Senator Bob Dole, at the World War II Memorial last week as they were honoring him, a great man. And he talked about when he was in the Senate, he believed in bipartisan majorities were the best thing to happen. And John Dingell, who was a good friend of Bob Dole's, used to talk about bipartisan majorities. You know, we need to listen to each other more. Compromise is not a dirty word. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have strong opinions and you shouldn't know what your values are and what's right. But we need to be delivering for the American people on issues that really matter, from fixing the damn roads, which I used to hate, but it's part of our...
It's on T-shirts everywhere.
It's ever T-shirts. I mean, what I hear about the most when I'm out is the cost of prescription drugs and how much people's medicine is costing. They want to compete in a level playing field, so we need to do something about trade agreements. I have men and women scared to death about their pensions. Those are issues that we've got to address, and yet at the same time, nobody's above the law.
And that's something that I want to bring up. So Bob Mueller gave a press conference yesterday, and so we've seen many Democrats start to change their mind, and whereas that they weren't sure if they wanted to call on any kind of impeachment process, and now we're hearing more calls, especially from those who are running for office. But what do you think we should do at this point?
I'm very honest. I'm struggling. I believe that Congress the forefathers told us we have an oversight responsibility. And we need to follow the facts, and no one is above the law. I think Mueller was telling the Congress, Republicans and Democrats, do your job. Read the report. I have read the report. I'm now in my third reading. And one of the things that's a theme throughout the whole report is how Russia is trying to divide us as a country and is attacking the fundamental pillars of our Constitution. To me, a partisan impeachment would divide us further. And I want to figure out how we protect this country. So I'm struggling. I know we've got a responsibility to continue to get the facts. I am not, where that takes us, I'm not sure. But I also think we need to work together as Republicans and Democrats and not divide this country further.
And it's one of those things that I feel that people don't trust a lot of what they're hearing from their elected officials. I don't know why that is, or maybe it's just broken down, or trust is broken down, or you say it's distrust in institutions.
I think it's distrust in institutions. They don't trust a lot of institutions, and that's, they don't. It used to be people went to work for a company and thought the company cared about them. They don't trust that. I think that is a problem people, period. But I will tell you that I, as you know, told everybody that I thought that President Trump could become president when everybody thought it was crazy. It doesn't mean I'm still not crazy, but I was right about that. But I think it's because people are tired of partisan bickering. They wanted to see things get done, and they thought that he would shake things up. Mm-hmm. Now, he has shaken things up.
Correct.
But he hasn't delivered for the American people. And either he's going to have to figure out a way that he's going to deliver for the American people. There's one wonderful article in the New York Times this week about a worker at the Lordstown plant who voted for President Obama, and he voted for President Trump, and he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know who cares about him. Our job is to care about him and not be partisan, but figure out what we're going to do for the American worker.
That speaks volumes. But I'm concerned that with this hanging over and the specter of possible impeachment proceedings, that nothing is going to get done until that decision, whether or not to move forward or not, is decided.
So I would say that that's an unacceptable answer. That I think that when he walked into the Oval Office and said, "I'm not going to work with you," that was just an unacceptable answer. Even Richard Nixon and President Clinton, when they were under these impeachment clouds, and President Clinton was impeached, President Nixon resigned, major pieces of legislation got signed into law. They kept working. And he got elected because people want to see him deliver for them. Now, we've got to work with them, too. I mean, we've all got to work together to deliver. But not doing anything is unacceptable from an executive branch or a legislative branch.
You have a couple of new members in the Michigan congressional delegation. How have you communicated with them about this job, about getting things done in Washington, about, again, they go through their own freshman orientation and kind of learning the ropes, but what are some of the things that you're talking to them about?
So I am close to everybody, actually. Rashida's district abuts me, but Haley and Alyssa are really close friends, and Andy I've known forever, and we talk frequently. I talk to Rashida, Alyssa, and Haley several times a week, if not daily. Mm-hmm. And we talk about issues that matter, give them thoughts, perspectives on building coalitions, what people think, how do we win, what do we do for people. Alyssa, Haley, and I are hearing much of the same thing of people being worried about prescription drugs and how do we get that done. But Rashida and I have some communities very much in common too. And we're out there strategizing. We toured flood areas. She was stuck at something. I did her cities and my cities. We all work together for Michigan.
So if you're talking about the largest concern people have are about the price of prescription drugs, I was just speaking to Dan Lepp from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and he said that there has to be some kind of maybe self-regulation of the prescription drug companies, or something else is going to have to be done. What do you anticipate is that something else that's going to have to be done?
We're working on a lot of approaches. And we have to do something. First of all, we need transparency. I mean, it is such a complex process. And there's so many layers. We had a hearing last week in the Energy and Commerce Committee with all of the different layers, and they couldn't even tell us the truth sitting at that table. It was, pharmacy prescription managers are really dictating the price. And I've said to them, I need to understand better, because I was in a pharmacist's office. I was in a pharmacy on Friday, and the pharmacist was she had to tell a patient she couldn't keep her as a customer anymore because the PBM, she had 18 prescriptions, and the PBM was telling her she had to charge this, and she was losing money on filling that person's prescriptions. The co-pays, people have it's impossible to understand. So I think one of the first things you're going to see Republicans and Democrats agree on is that we need to have transparency. We need to address the cost of generic drugs, pharmaceutical companies changing one ingredient, and then the patent still stays in place, so that keeps the drug price high. Do you know how much an inhaler is, the purple inhaler?
No.
$700. I would normally walk around with it. Just to make a point, think about being a mother of two, working 2 jobs, still being at the poverty line, and having a child with asthma. They can't afford it. And you've heard about insulin, and you've heard about EpiPen. We got a crisis.
So we're hearing from a lot of Democratic candidates who are saying there should be Medicare for all. We should be overhauling the prescription, or overhauling medical insurance. What do you think that we should be doing
I
at this point?
co-chair the Medicare for All caucus in the House. I'm the author of the Medicare for All bill. I think we're at a time in this country that every American's got a right to quality, affordable health care. And I'm willing to sit at the table, bring every stakeholder in, figure out how we get there, how do we improve the bill. But I'm meeting too many people that can't afford their medicine or won't even go get a mammogram because even if they find a lump, they can't afford their treatment.
Right.
Not okay.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue to watch all the work that you're going to do in Washington, and I'm so glad that you joined me. And I want to say that we continue to think about you as you celebrate John Dingell's life.
Thank you, Christy. I appreciate that.
It's good to see you, Debbie.